Imagine three brilliant high school friends in the late 1960s. They're inseparable, spending every hour they can huddled around a computer terminal at their school. A machine so advanced, most universities at the time didn't even have one.
Wow.
The statistical chance of any high school student in the world having this kind of access? Astronomical. Maybe 1 in a million.
Incredible.
Two of these friends, as you might have guessed, were Bill Gates and Paul Allen. They leveraged that incredible head start to change the world. But there was a third friend in that circle, Ken Evans. Gates described him as his best friend. He was just as smart, just as ambitious, and shared the exact same 1 in a million opportunity.
Right there with them.
They talked endlessly about the futures they would build together, except Kent never graduated. He died in a mountaineering accident before his senior year.
Oh, no.
The odds of a teenager dying in such an accident, equally tragically remote, also about 1 in a million.
So, the same odds, but completely opposite outcomes.
Oh, exactly. So you have one friend receiving this almost unimaginable stroke of luck, his best friend. He receives an equally rare, devastating dose of risk.
Wow.
We all know the story of the winner, the one that confirms our belief that skill and hard work lead to success. But the story we almost never talk about is Kent's.
The one that doesn't fit the neat narrative.
Precisely. And exploring that divergence, that razor-thin line between two opposite fates, reveals a fundamental truth about how success and failure really work.
It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into some pretty fascinating ideas that profoundly challenge our usual understanding of success, financial outcomes, even what it truly means to be financially smart.
Yeah, it's not as straightforward as we like to think.
We're going to explore how much of what happens in our financial lives, both the, soaring highs and the crushing lows, is actually within our direct control. And how much is simply down to the unpredictable, often arbitrary forces of luck and risk that swirl around us every day.
It's a critical lens to adopt, because what's truly fascinating here is how often we, as humans, automatically attribute everything to individual skill or sheer effort.
Oh, totally. We love the self-made story.
We do. We celebrate the self-made individual, and, well, we're pretty quick to blame personal failings when things go wrong. But the reality, as we'll sort of uncover, is far more nuanced, more complex, and sometimes, a little uncomfortable to confront.
Right.
We'll be looking at how even sophisticated financial professionals grapple with distinguishing repeatable market patterns from pure random chance, how they try to build robust investment strategies.
That's a huge challenge.
It is. We'll also analyze how deep-seated psychological biases can powerfully distort our view of success and failure, and crucially, what this all means for how we educate people about money.
Especially young people.
Exactly. Particularly for young people trying to navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world. We've pulled together some incredible insights to bring this picture to life for you.
That's a powerful framing, because the core idea we're starting with, it isn't just a financial truism, it's a profound challenge to how we perceive our entire lives. Nothing is truly as good or as bad as it seems.
That really hits on.
Think about that for a second. We're wired to believe success is 100% merit, failure 100% flaw.
Right. It's the default setting, isn't it?
But what if that promotion you got wasn't just your brilliant decision-making, but also maybe the timely departure of a key competitor, or that business setback? Maybe it wasn't just your mistake, but a sudden, unforeseen shift in consumer trends, or, a global pandemic that nobody could have predicted.
Exactly. It's always a mix. It's your personal effort, sure, but also these external, often random chance events that nobody could truly see coming.
And that, for many of us, is the truly humbling part, acknowledging that mix.
Precisely. And the discomfort in acknowledging this blend of effort and external factors is palpable within us. We, as humans, inherently prefer a narrative where skill is paramount because, well, it gives us that vital sense of control over our destinies.
Control is key.
It really is. If I succeed, it's because I'm skilled and smart. If I fail, it's because I made a bad choice. And critically, I can learn from it and avoid it next time. That narrative feels empowering, right?
Absolutely.
But admitting that luck played a significant, perhaps even decisive, role in your success, well, it can feel like it diminishes your hard work.
Yeah.
It's like saying, well, you just got lucky, and that's not a comfortable narrative to embrace, especially when you've poured your heart and soul into something.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that.
And similarly, acknowledging the pervasive role of risk profoundly challenges that very sense of control. It forces us to confront the fact that even with the best intentions, the smartest strategies, exhaustive planning, things can still go catastrophically wrong, simply because you ended up on the wrong side of probability. It's a bitter pill to swallow for anyone, but especially for those in fields like finance, where precision and prediction are often, highly valued.
And that brings us right back to the Bill Gates and Ken Evans examples, which just perfectly illustrate this inseparable, almost symbiotic relationship between luck and risk.
Two sides of the same coin. Absolutely.
They're constantly influencing life's outcomes. Gates had this almost unbelievable stroke of luck access to one of the most advanced computers in the world at a high school in the late 1960s.
It's mind-boggling.
To put that in perspective, most universities didn't have what Lakeside School had. That's a 1 in a million opportunity that gave him and Paul Allen an unbelievable, almost unfair head start in a burgeoning industry that was about to redefine the world.
The timing, the access.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Imagine being handed that kind of technological leverage at that age. The perfect tool at the perfect time in the perfect hands.
And then, tragically, you have Ken Evans. Equally brilliant, equally ambitious, part of that same tight-knit circle, sharing the same dreams, same opportunities.
They were planning their futures together.
Exactly. Envisioning a shared path to innovation. But Kent faced a devastating 1 in a million dose of risk, dying in that mountaineering accident before he even graduated high school.
It's just brutal.
It's a stark, almost cruel contrast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It shows that outcomes are profoundly influenced by forces beyond just hard work or poor choices. Kent made no poor choice that led to that outcome.
None at all.
It was simply the brutal, random, and devastating unfairness of life. This vividly illustrates how the trajectory of a life, and indeed financial success or failure, is not purely a result of individual effort, but often a deeply intertwined dance between personal agency and sheer happenstance.
So when we think about judging success and failure, especially in finance where numbers seem so definitive, one Nobel Prize winner actually expressed a desire to know the exact role of luck in successful outcome.
I can see why. It's the million-dollar question, maybe the billion-dollar question.
Right. You can immediately see why that's so tricky. If you were to tell a large group of investors, hey, out of 1 billion investors, it's statistically probable that at least 10 became billionaires mostly due to luck rather than pure skill, people might nod along conceptually.
Just might accept the math, yeah.
But then if you ask them to publicly name those 10 individuals and explicitly state these guys, their success was mostly luck, they'd hesitate. There's a profound reluctance.
Absolutely. It's profoundly uncomfortable, both for the individual and for society, to publicly downplay someone's apparent skill, even when statistics might strongly suggest luck played an outsized role.
We love heroes.
We are culturally wired to celebrate the individual hero, the genius, the mastermind. It makes for a simpler, more satisfying narrative. And on the flip side, failure is often misjudged, and often with far less sympathy.
Oh, definitely.
We tend to quickly attribute a failed business, a personal financial setback, or even poverty to bad decisions or a fundamental lack of effort or intelligence. But how much of that was truly within that person's control?
That's the tough question.
The reality is, everything worth pursuing in life has less than a 100% chance of success. Risk isn't about making a mistake or exercising poor judgment. It's simply what happens when you end up on the wrong side of probability. No matter how well you planned or how diligently you executed. It's the inherent uncertainty baked into every single decision.
This inherent uncertainty, coupled with our desire for clear narratives, leads to a really interesting psychological bias, doesn't it? I think we're almost all guilty of it.
Oh, for sure. It's deeply human.
When other people fail, it's so easy for us to instantly blame it on their bad decisions. Oh, they should have diversified, or they were clearly too reckless. We instinctively look for a causal link to their choices.
We play armchair quarterback.
Totally. But then when we fail, it's a different story. It's almost always bad luck.
Right.
The market turned against me unexpectedly, or I just hit an unlucky streak that no one could have survived.
External factors suddenly become very visible.
And the media, unfortunately, totally reinforces this distorted view. They love to celebrate individuals who succeed, even if they did it through reckless, high-risk decisions that just happen to pay off due to sheer, improbable luck.
The survivor bias story.
Exactly. You rarely see them highlighting someone who made all the wise, prudent, statistically sound choices, but still got wiped out by an unforeseen external event. That narrative just doesn't sell as well.
And a classic, compelling example of this phenomenon involved one of the most respected investors of all time, the mentor to Warren Buffett. His legendary success was partly due to a massive stake he held in Geico.
Okay.
What's truly fascinating and often overlooked is that this huge concentrated investment actually broke his own diversification rules. His own principles advised against such a large, undiversified position.
Huh. So he didn't follow his own advice.
In that specific, very impactful case, no. So was that skill a brilliant insight that transcended his own rules? Or was it luck, a fortunate deviation from his own sound principles that happened to pay off spectacularly in that specific instance?
Wow, it's impossible to know for sure.
It becomes incredibly difficult to tell the difference, even for someone so revered and principle-driven. This ambiguity underscores why it's so challenging to learn the right way to manage money just from isolated individual success stories. They often conceal the true blend of factors at play, making it difficult to discern what's genuinely repeatable and what was simply a fortunate alignment of stars.
Okay, so if it's so incredibly hard to untangle luck, skill, and inherent risk in any given outcome, what practical principles can we actually apply? How do we navigate our financial lives and, well, our lives in general, knowing this?
That's the key question, and there are a couple of powerful ideas that can really shift our perspective. First, be incredibly careful who you praise and criticize.
Because it might not be all them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, as we've discussed, not all success is solely the result of hard work and brilliance. And absolutely not all poverty or failure is due to laziness or poor choices. Think about it. Some individuals are born into families that deeply value education, providing them with a foundational advantage: intellectual capital, access to resources, powerful networks.
A huge head start.
A massive one. Others are born into thriving economies with abundant opportunities at every turn where growth is the norm. But then there are those born into war zones, or families where education isn't a priority because survival is the immediate focus, or economies struggling under systemic oppression.
Circumstances completely beyond their control.
Completely. These circumstances profoundly shape their trajectory and outcomes.
Yeah, it really encourages a profound sense of gratitude for what you have and maybe more empathy when looking at others.
Yes, absolutely. Gratitude and perspective are crucial. It fosters humility and success and compassion in failure. The second principle building on this humility is to focus on broad, repeatable patterns, not extreme individual cases.
Okay, so look for the trends, not the outliers.
Pretty much. When we study specific people, especially outliers like billionaires or those who experience massive public failures, we're often looking at situations where luck or risk played an outsized, almost defining role. These are the anomalies, the exceptions, not the reliable blueprints you can just copy and paste.
Right. So instead of trying to meticulously replicate the exact steps of a billionaire who maybe just got incredibly lucky with one highly concentrated high-stakes bet,
Which is often the case.
we should instead look for what's truly repeatable, what consistently works across a wide range of situations.
Exactly. Patterns, whether in financial behavior, market dynamics, or even personal habits, are fundamentally honest. They're what you can actually apply consistently and reliably over time. When you focus on these broad, enduring patterns like diversification, the power of compound interest over long periods, disciplined saving, avoiding excessive debt, you create a resilient framework.
Framework that can handle some bumps.
Precisely. This framework allows you to survive and even thrive, even if luck isn't always on your side, even when the market throws unexpected curveballs. And even better, when good luck does show up, because it will eventually for some people in some form, you are already positioned and ready to receive it.
You're ready to catch the waves.
You're ready to leverage that fortunate win to your advantage. It's about building resilience for the bad times and optimal positioning for the good times, recognizing that you can't control the random waves, but you absolutely can build a sturdy boat that is ready for whatever the ocean brings. It's about seeking those repeatable lessons that work through both the good and the bad.
Build a sturdy boat. I like that.
It's about building a robust framework for survival and positioning. This recognition of the constant interplay between luck and risk helps us remain humble in success empathetic in failure, and relentlessly focused on underlying patterns that genuinely offer durable improvement and a higher probability of success, rather than futilely chasing outlier events or attributing genius where fortune was the primary driver. It's a more realistic and ultimately, I think, more empowering way to approach financial life.
That's a profound shift in mindset. Okay, we've talked about how deeply luck and risk intertwine in individual success and failure, but what happens when we zoom out to the massive, complex world of sophisticated financial markets? Where highly trained professionals are trying to tame these very forces.
Right, does it scale up?
Yeah. Do the same rules apply? And if so, how do these invisible hands of luck and risk play out in the rarefied air of high finance?
That's a million-dollar question for financial professionals, isn't it? How do you truly distinguish repeatable market patterns from pure random luck to build robust investment strategies that can withstand unpredictable shock?
It must keep them up at night.
It's a question that, frankly, haunts even the most brilliant minds in finance because the stakes are just so incredibly high.
It reminds me of story one, the story of Kenji Tanaka. Let's imagine him as a stock trader in Tokyo during Japan's late 1980s bubble economy.
Oh, the bubble years. Prime territory for this kind of story.
Exactly. You can picture him sharp, impeccably dressed, exuding confidence, maybe a touch arrogant. He starts his career when the market seemed to defy gravity, right? A period where the Nikkei index appeared to go nowhere but gloriously up.
Easy money, seemingly.
Kenji wasn't just riding this incredible wave. He was convinced he had developed a proprietary system, a secret sauce. He saw reliable patterns, indicators that to him were as predictable and immutable as the laws of physics.
He thought he'd cracked the code.
And for a glorious, intoxicating period, he was absolutely right, or seemed to be. He made an astronomical fortune, not just for himself, but for his high net worth clients, too. His colleagues, the media, even his clients hailed him as a genius, a master of the market, a true visionary.
And he believed the hype.
Oh, absolutely. Perhaps inevitably he believed it. He truly thought he had cracked an unbreakable code, a skill honed through sheer brilliance and exhaustive analysis.
But then, the music stopped.
Right. In 1990, the inevitable happened. The market crashed. What Kenji initially perceived as a mere blip, a rare and temporary anomaly, quickly turned into a prolonged, brutal descent.
Denial is a powerful thing.
He clung desperately to his convictions. He held his positions, even doubled down, pouring more capital into the market, blindly trusting those unbreakable patterns that had made him so rich.
Oh, that's painful. Betting bigger on a losing strategy.
Yet the market continued its relentless decline, not just for months, but for years, erasing fortunes and shattering confidence. It was then, and only then, that the stark, crushing reality became agonizingly clear.
The system failed.
His patterns weren't a result of his genius or a fundamental understanding of market mechanics. They were merely fleeting artifacts of a once-in-a-generation speculative bubble, a unique and unrepeatable confluence of economic conditions.
A tide that lifted all boats, and he thought he was the captain navigating perfectly.
Exactly. His luck, which he had so confidently mistaken for inherent skill, had vanished with the bursting bubble, and the systemic risk he had so blithely dismissed as impossible had become his devastating, inescapable reality. His system, like a fair-weather friend, only worked when the conditions were absolutely ideal.
And the analysis of Kenji's story is truly chilling for anyone in finance, or really anyone making decisions under uncertainty.
Definitely.
It highlights the profound, almost impossible difficulty of separating genuine, repeatable skill from pure good fortune, especially when you're in the exhilarating middle of a seemingly endless winning streak.
It feels like skill when you're winning.
It absolutely does. Kenji wasn't necessarily a bad trader in terms of his intellect or work ethic. He was just one who, unbeknownst to him, had only ever played the game on an easy setting, in a uniquely forgiving market environment.
That's a great way to put it.
This isn't just a fascinating cautionary tale for individuals. It serves as a powerful, enduring warning for financial professionals everywhere, from hedge fund managers to individual advisors. It underscores the constant critical need to rigorously evaluate whether success is due to a truly robust, adaptable strategy that can withstand significant market shocks.
Or if you're just lucky.
Or if you're simply riding a lucky wave that is inevitably destined to break, leaving you stranded. It's about designing investment strategies and risk management frameworks that deeply account for inherent randomness and the limitations of even the most sophisticated predictive models.
And it's striking because professionals today have such incredible tools.
Yeah, this is precisely why, despite the vast array of sophisticated tools, knowledge, and sheer intellectual firepower available to financial professionals today, the influence of luck and systemic, unrepeatable phenomena remains a significant, often underestimated factor.
Yeah.
Consider the sheer technical capabilities these professionals possess. We're talking about specialists in quantitative finance, often with PhDs, who have deep knowledge of incredibly complex mathematical tools like stochastic calculus, which models systems evolving randomly over time, econometric models for predicting economic trends,
Heavy stuff.
and sophisticated portfolio management models designed to optimize risk and return by balancing diverse assets. They utilize advanced risk metrics, estimating potential losses, alongside powerful computational techniques like time series analysis, clustering, and data mining to spot hidden patterns in vast data sets.
And the software they use is pretty intense, too.
Absolutely. Their toolkit isn't just theoretical, it's intensely practical and technologically advanced. These are individuals proficient in high-performance programming languages like C, C++, Java, and Python. They master statistical computing environments like R and MATLAB, and are expert users of more accessible tools like VBA for complex modeling and Excel and Access. They navigate powerful financial data platforms like Bloomberg and Reuters that provide real-time information and analytics.
So they have all this power at their fingertips.
Yet, despite this extensive technological and mathematical expertise, the Kenji Tanaka story drives home the unshakable point. Even with these cutting-edge methodologies, there is always an irreducible element of the market that remains unpredictable. It's shaped by human psychology, geopolitical events, unforeseen catalysts, things models struggle with.
So you can't model everything.
Not even close. It raises the fundamental, ongoing question of how to design investment and risk management frameworks that can truly filter signal from noise, distinguishing genuine, repeatable patterns from random market froth or the temporary distortions of a bubble like Kenji experienced.
It's a perpetual, humbling challenge, then.
It really is. Building strategies that are resilient enough to handle what you can't predict, not just what you think you can control. The goal isn't perfect prediction, because that's impossible, but robust survival in the face of inevitable surprise.
Okay, so we've seen how incredibly hard it is to tell skill from luck, even for the seasoned pros navigating the world's most complex markets. But beyond the professional sphere, what about the stories we tell ourselves about success? And maybe more importantly, the stories we tell about others, especially when they achieve extraordinary things.
Well, yes, the narratives we build.
How do our brains process these narratives?
This is where our inherent psychological biases really come into play, and they could profoundly distort our perception of financial success and failure. This impacts everything from investor behavior to the very design of financial literacy programs.
How so?
We are, at our core, storytellers. And we absolutely love a simple, clean, heroic narrative. The more dramatic, the better. Complexity is harder to sell, harder to remember.
That's where story 2 comes in, right? Our imagined tale of Mark and David from the heady days of the dot-com boom in late 90s Silicon Valley.
Perfect setting for this kind of dynamic.
Mark was the quintessential visionary, the charismatic one, right? Could captivate a room, sell a dream to skeptical investors with just a few PowerPoint slides and sheer force of personality.
The front man.
Exactly. David, on the other hand, was the quiet, brilliant coder. He was the one actually building the product, often working those insane 100-hour weeks, fueled by endless coffee and a deep, almost obsessive belief in their shared mission. He was the engineering genius behind the elegant, scalable architecture.
The engine room.
They were, by all accounts, a perfect complementary team. Their startup, let's say it was a pioneer in early social networking, eventually achieved staggering success, breaking through the noise, and was acquired for an immense life-changing sum.
The dream scenario.
But then
the story gets written. And here's where the attribution error, our tendency to overemphasize personality and underemphasize the situation when explaining others' behavior, kicks in hard.
We look for the hero. Overnight, Mark was on the cover of prestigious business magazines, hailed as the next tech titan, a visionary genius. In countless interviews, he'd frequently talk about my vision, my relentless struggle, my groundbreaking breakthrough.
The I becomes very prominent.
Very. Over time, the public narrative, heavily amplified by the media, began to minimize, then gradually erase, David's crucial role in building the very foundation of their success.
That's rough.
It wasn't necessarily malicious at first, maybe. It was simply that the narrative of the lone, heroic genius was far too compelling, too easy to digest for the media to resist, and perhaps for Mark himself to entirely push back against. Mark started to internalize this narrative, maybe genuinely believing their success wasn't a product of partnership, timing, and lucky breaks.
But solely the direct result of his singular talent, his unique insight. The story becomes the reality in his own mind.
And David, despite receiving the same significant financial reward, he experienced this profound sense of erasure. The money, no matter how much, couldn't quite fill the void left by having his critical contribution minimized or even stolen by this pervasive psychological bias.
Our deep-seated human need to attribute complex, multifaceted outcomes to a single, easily digestible, heroic figure.
It's just so much easier for us to idolize a genius than to truly analyze the intricate, messy, complex web of luck, timing, privilege, collaborative effort, and sheer chance that almost always underpins truly great successes.
Yeah, acknowledging the serendipity is less satisfying than lauding the individual. But this attribution error isn't just an interesting psychological quirk. It's genuinely dangerous in its implications.
How so? What are the real-world effects?
Well, it provides aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators with a completely distorted roadmap for success. It suggests implicitly that charisma and self-promotion can somehow substitute for actual substance, deep technical skill, or collaborative effort.
Fake it till you make it, taken too far.
Exactly. It encourages them to project an illusion of solo control, rather than fostering genuine, equitable partnerships based on mutual respect and shared credit. Beyond that, it makes us profoundly less empathetic to those who fail.
Ah, right. If success is all skill, then failure must be
A personal flaw, a deficit in effort, intelligence, or moral character. This misattribution can also lead to misguided investment decisions. Investors might fall prey to compelling heroic narratives and charismatic founders, rather than rigorously assessing the underlying team, the strategy, or the market dynamics.
investing in the story, not the substance.
Precisely. And it has significant implications for how we design and implement financial literacy programs.
Okay, connect that dot for me.
It implies that these programs shouldn't just focus on teaching practical skills like budgeting or abstract concepts like compound interest. They also need to incorporate a deep understanding of these cognitive biases. We need to promote critical thinking about the seemingly straightforward success stories we're constantly bombarded with.
The magazine covers, the TED Talks.
Exactly. And openly acknowledge the multifaceted nature of financial outcomes. But how do you practically teach that? How do you make someone, especially a young person, truly internalize that concept when everything around them celebrates the self-made narrative and the heroic entrepreneur?
Yeah, when the simple stories work hard, succeed. That's the real challenge, isn't it?
It is. Because it's not just about conveying information or memorizing rules. True financial literacy then becomes less about rote learning and more about equipping individuals with the ability to critically analyze information, challenge ingrained psychological tendencies within themselves, and understand that external circumstances play a profound role.
Whether they're making investment decisions or just judging themselves or others.
Precisely. It means fostering intellectual humility and a nuanced understanding of causality in the financial world.
Okay, so if skill and luck are so incredibly hard to untangle, and our brains are naturally wired for these biased, simple stories, what does that mean for how we actually teach people about money in the real world? Should financial education be fundamentally reshaped?
This is where the narrative shifts significantly, I think. It really forces us to investigate the profound, systemic challenges of developing effective financial education curricula that accurately account for the pervasive, often devastating influence of luck and systemic risk.
Moving beyond just save more, spend less.
Exactly. Moving beyond those simplistic narratives of individual effort and decision-making, which, while important, often paint an incomplete and potentially dangerous picture of financial reality.
And this brings us to story 3, the imagined but I think deeply resonant story of Anna, a diligent school teacher living in Argentina in the late 1990s.
Another context where external forces can just overwhelm individual effort.
Anna was exactly the kind of person you'd expect to succeed financially. Intelligent, disciplined, proactive. She attended a financial literacy workshop, took all the lessons to heart, applied them rigorously.
Did everything right.
Lived frugally, picked up a second job tutoring on weekends, diligently saved a significant portion of her earnings in a peso-denominated savings account, avoided debt like the plague. She did everything right according to the universal rules of personal finance being taught.
Building her future, brick by brick.
She was feeling immensely proud of her discipline and foresight. Her dream, to one day save enough to buy a small apartment, a symbol of stability and independence.
A very relatable, sensible goal.
But then, in 2001, catastrophe struck. The entire system collapsed around her. The Argentine government, facing a severe economic crisis, froze all bank accounts in an event known as the Corralito.
The little corral, trapping people's money.
Exactly. When Anna was finally able to access her funds, after agonizing months of uncertainty and despair, a catastrophic devaluation of the peso had wiped out nearly 90% of its worth.
Oh my God. 90%. Gone.
Years of sacrifice, discipline, and what she thought were unequivocally correct decisions simply evaporated overnight. Not because of any mistake she made, not because of a bad investment choice.
But because of a systemic national risk she had absolutely no power over.
Her financial education had taught her how to play the game within its rules, but it never once warned her that the entire game board could be flipped over, rendering all her careful moves meaningless.
That's devastating. And a powerful indictment of simplistic advice.
Anna's story is truly sobering and, frankly, heartbreaking. It's a powerful, undeniable argument against advice that solely preaches saving and investing as a guaranteed path to security. If we don't also educate people about systemic risk, about the historical reality of currency collapses, hyperinflation, political instability, market manias...
We're giving them a faulty map.
Exactly, a faulty map of the world, one that leads them into predictable dangers. Her experience profoundly emphasizes that sometimes the biggest factor in your financial outcome isn't your individual effort or skill, but rather circumstantial luck specifically. The simple, profound accident of where and when you were born.
That really hits hard.
It calls for profound humility in how we approach financial teaching, and a deeper understanding that, at certain macro-level scales, the only thing you can do about bad luck is to have been lucky enough to be somewhere else entirely. It's a reminder that some risks are truly beyond individual mitigation.
And this leads us to a crucial, often overlooked distinction in financial management paradigms, doesn't it? Particularly when we contrast financial behaviors in high and middle-income households with those in low-income contexts, like those often observed in Kenya, for example.
Okay, explain that contrast.
For individuals in high or middle-income brackets, earning money and managing it are often seen as separate tasks. Financial management primarily involves resource allocation, thoughtfully distributing a regular, predictable income across immediate expenditures, savings goals, long-term investments, aiming for things like buying a home or retirement.
Orderly cash flows, analytical decisions.
Right. Relatively orderly cash flows, allowing for analytical, infrequent decisions. But for low-income individuals, especially in contexts like Kenya, the reality is fundamentally drastically different. Earning and allocating money are a continuous, inseparable cycle.
It's all happening at once.
All at once. Their lives are characterized by erratic, unpredictable, and often meager cash flows, forcing a constant minute-by-minute scramble to maximize every incoming shilling. This means discipline and commitment are not just virtues, but fundamental necessities. It's the very heart of being a good manager and often a good person in their community.
So it's less about complex analysis, more about relentless discipline.
It's a relentless, urgent process driven by the immediate need to survive and maximize highly uncertain income flows. Whereas in higher income contexts, decisions tend to be large, analytical, and infrequent, requiring specific knowledge. For low-income individuals, it's about countless small, daily expenditure and savings choices that demand immense discipline and constant vigilance, far more than abstract analytical skill.
And the consequences are immediate.
Yes, and the consequences of these decisions are felt immediately and often painfully for those living on the margins of survival. Unlike high-income individuals, who might get into trouble by reaching for unaffordable long-term assets like mortgages or failing to save for a distant retirement.
Right.
Low-income individuals often fall into financial trouble from what might appear to be indulgence or succumbing to immediate consumption temptations. Research in Kenya frequently pointed to issues like spending money aimlessly or on immediate gratifications like alcohol, drugs, or even multiple partners.
Which might not be just moral failings, right?
Not necessarily. These are often complex behaviors linked to the sheer mental exhaustion of daily financial struggle. desperate attempts to cope, or seeking momentary relief in environments where long-term planning feels almost impossible, and the consequences of even small choices are immediate and painful.
So that profound difference in financial realities really highlights why a one-size-fits-all approach to financial education just doesn't work.
Absolutely. Focusing solely on individual effort and abstract concepts is insufficient and potentially harmful, much like Anna's devastating experience with systemic risk. It fails to acknowledge the lived, immediate realities people face.
So if financial realities are so dramatically different across income levels and contexts, and luck and systemic risk loom so large, what does this all mean for how we actually build financial capability around the world, whether in emerging economies or for young people trying to find their footing in a developed one?
How do we create truly effective, relevant financial education? That's the key.
Yeah.
This raises crucial questions about shifting our understanding of financial capability beyond narrow traditional definitions. We need to focus instead on lived experience, practical skills, and systemic considerations. For Kenyan consumers, for example, financial capability is less about formally using abstract financial services.
Like complex investment products.
Right. It's far more about optimizing spending and investment amidst deeply uncertain and erratic cash flows. It's about prioritizing discipline and unwavering commitment as core virtues for managing money, and indeed for being seen as a good person within their community, someone responsible and forward-thinking.
You see this so starkly in the personal stories emerging from research, don't you? The sacrifices people make.
Absolutely. We heard from rural women, many widowed with children, working as casual laborers, hauling water or working fields just to survive. One woman recounted her struggles. "When I get money, I eat." Meaning every shilling went to immediate survival, preventing her kids from going to secondary school.
Just day-to-day survival.
But her friend, emaciated, clearly struggling physically, positively glowed, talking about putting her 2 oldest children through secondary school. She belonged to 8 different savings groups and explained that sometimes her children would eat and she would willingly go to bed hungry.
Wow, that's incredible sacrifice.
For her, investing in the future, educating her children, meant serious, visceral sacrifices today. And commitment devices played a major role in helping her stay on track with her disciplined saving. It's truly about virtue and sacrifice viewed through a cultural lens.
And this cultural commitment to discipline drives specific behaviors, right? Like how they use certain tools.
Exactly. Kenyans effectively leverage commitment devices, like the popular mobile money service M-Pesa. For low-income individuals, M-Pesa keeps funds close enough for emergencies, but crucially imposes a small withdrawal cost.
That little fee makes a difference.
That seemingly minor cost acts as a powerful discipline feature. It prevents haphazard, impulsive spending, making people think twice before withdrawing small amounts for trivial purchases. Small business owners would even make daily deposits just to get cash out of their hand before they could be tempted to spend it.
Interesting. So it's friction as a feature.
Exactly. Conversely, those with higher, more regular incomes sometimes found M-Pesa too easy to spend, particularly on airtime for their phones. So they'd intentionally leave their SIM card at home or use traditional banks for greater discipline, creating more friction against immediate access.
And they use it for emergencies, too.
Many keep a small emergency balance in M-Pesa, maybe 500 to 3,000 Kenyan shillings, which is roughly US $6.50 to $39. This quick, digital access to small funds is absolutely critical during crises, providing a vital safety net, like buying airtime at night for an urgent call or sending money home quickly during an emergency.
And beyond M-Pesa, those savings groups, the chamas?
Incredibly prevalent.
Yeah.
Used by 30 out of 50 respondents in one study. These groups serve as vital commitment devices, helping people save larger sums over longer periods, reinforcing planning and forcing them to postpone expenditures for future, often significant, investments like school fees or starting a business.
They sound like they really embody and reinforce cultural wisdom.
They do. Proverbs like haba na haba hujaza kibaba, saving small will fill the container, or akiba hayozi, savings don't rot, and the very practical ukipata shilingi imbilikula moja weka moja, when you get 2 shillings, save 1 and eat 1, reflect deeply ingrained cultural mores around saving.
Plus the community support aspect.
Hugely important. These groups provide invaluable and tangible benefits like advice, mentorship, and mutual support during tough times. One urban woman proudly belonged to a Be Independent group, learning from those more advanced in life, while another noted how women in her group would put their heads together and support each other through collective wisdom and shared experience.
What's truly fascinating is how these Kenyan respondents learn about money management. It sounds like it's not really from workshops like Anna attended.
No, not primarily. It's overwhelmingly through direct life experiences, especially negative ones, which serve as potent, unforgettable lessons. As one rural woman who built a robust portfolio after struggling desperately to educate her kids starkly stated, "At times you learn after experiencing some problems."
Learning the hard way.
She explained that when her husband was away and she couldn't afford her kids' schooling, she had to dig for other people, sell fish, do literally everything, until my mind opened up and I started the projects. They also learned profoundly by observing and imitating positive behaviors of friends and family. One young man described how his parents gradually entrusted him with larger sums to practice money management, a mentorship by doing approach.
And this hands-on learning extends to trying new financial services, testing the waters.
Yes. One rural woman, nervous about opening a bank account, initially deposited 10,000 shillings, then specifically withdrew 2,000 2 days later just to check if the process worked and if her balance was right. When it was, even with a small fee, she felt immense relief and trust.
Building trust through small steps.
Exactly. Many started using M-Pesa the same way, sending tiny amounts as a test run. This builds crucial trust and comfort. Conversely, negative experiences like unexpected bank fees often lead to immediate behavioral changes like closing accounts unless clear answers are provided. Transparency retains clients even if costs are high.
So traditional literacy and numeracy, less important than discipline and experience.
In this context, yes. While important for basic transactions, they are not seen as primary skills for financial management itself. As one person pragmatically put it, as long as you use your brain, you can manage your money. Literacy and numeracy were primarily considered important for avoiding being cheated, not for the core act of managing money through discipline.
And formal financial education.
Very little exposure among respondents. But product sensitization by loan officers specifically focused on credit management was seen as genuinely helpful. This underscores that in Kenya, direct, often hard-won experience, not formal education, primarily drives financial capability. Low uptake of services is often due to product features mismatching needs, not a fundamental lack of understanding.
What about consumer protection? Concerns about mobile money agents?
Surprisingly, fears about branchless agents being less trustworthy were largely unfounded in Kenya. Respondents, trusted agents, knew how to seek redress through Safaricom's robust system and often found agents more helpful than bank tellers.
So the concerns were elsewhere.
Consumer protection concerns were more about the complexity and cost of credit products than the channels. Kenyans welcomed access to credit almost regardless of the high interest rate, focusing instead on ease of access and flexible repayment. But the concept of a guarantor in joint liability groups, for example, was often unclear or didn't lead to actual monitoring, causing unexpected liabilities.
Interesting. So the product itself is more of a risk than the delivery channel.
Exactly. The channel, like mobile money agents, poses less risk than the inherent complexity or opaque terms of the financial product, particularly credit. The implication for financial education and policy is profound. The concept of financial capability developed for middle-income households in advanced economies just cannot be downsized or directly applied to low-income households in developing ones. Their realities are fundamentally different.
Okay, so if financial capability is so deeply shaped by context and lived experience in places like Kenya, what does this all mean for how we approach building financial literacy in vastly different environments? Say, for young people trying to find their footing in a highly developed, digitalized economy like Sweden.
Right. Do their young people, with all their apparent advantages, face entirely different challenges? Or are there surprising commonalities despite the huge socioeconomic differences?
Let's explore that.
This is a vital inquiry. It helps us expand our understanding of financial capability beyond traditional definitions, focusing instead on practical skills, digital literacy, and systemic considerations, even in seemingly advantaged contexts. If we turn to the Swedish youth perspective, we find different but equally important insights.
What's the situation there? You'd assume they'd be pretty savvy.
Well, despite Sweden being a highly digitalized environment with widespread access to technology, a 2016 report revealed significant financial knowledge gaps among Swedish youth. A concerning one-third of 18-24-year-olds were unsure about fundamental concepts like loans and insurance.
Wow, really? Even in Sweden?
Yes. And furthermore, the Swedish Enforcement Authority has explicitly linked rising youth indebtedness to insufficient financial literacy, noting many young people fundamentally misunderstand the implications of debt and debt relief.
That's fascinating. So even in a technologically advanced, wealthy country, foundational financial literacy is a significant challenge.
It is. This recognition, fueled by increasing youth debt, led to mandatory personal finance education in the national curriculum starting in autumn 2022. It highlights a universal recognition that young people can't be assumed to receive this critical guidance from home alone, regardless of their family's economic standing.
It signals that financial literacy is seen as a right.
Exactly, a right, not a privilege. And for Swedish youth, there's a very strong, deeply felt aspiration for independence and self-reliance. They consistently see their first earnings as a truly transformative moment, a rite of passage.
Getting that first paycheck.
It shifts them from passively receiving money to actively earning it and gaining tangible agency. Anna, for example, reflected on her first paycheck, feeling an immediate sense of maturity and reduced reliance on parents. She could pay for her own activities, buy clothes, manage her spending without asking permission. It reinforces autonomy.
But it's not all smooth sailing, right? There are anxieties, too.
Definitely. Students express mixed emotions, balancing confidence in their education with deep-seated worries about future job security and finding stable income. Fiona trusted her education, but felt uncertain about its practical support against future economic uncertainties. Bella highlighted profound concerns about finding stable employment after graduation, reflecting Sweden's significant youth unemployment rate in 2023.
So knowledge isn't enough if the economic reality feels precarious.
Precisely. These anxieties clearly underscore that financial knowledge alone doesn't always translate into confidence or true autonomy, especially when broader economic factors feel beyond individual control.
And money affects their social lives, too.
Profoundly. Diana noted how money plays a pretty big role in friendships. When someone can't afford an activity, the quality will be the same, leading to what she called social camouflage.
Hiding financial struggles.
Yes. Youth actively hide struggles rather than admitting they can't afford things, making excuses like, I have something else to do, just to maintain social cohesion and avoid embarrassment. It reveals powerful societal pressures and the unseen social costs of financial exclusion. And for some, long-term worries like retirement savings are heavily influenced by immediate family instability, adding another layer of complexity.
So given all this, how effective do they actually perceive their school-based financial education to be? Does it meet their needs?
Well, the consensus was that formal financial education provides a good foundation and covers the basics, but they widely felt it lacked sufficient depth and practical application for real-life tasks they'd soon encounter.
Like paying bills, taxes, student loans.
Exactly. Greta noted it provides the basics, but she'd always learn more in depth elsewhere. Anna felt they only touch the basics a little, you still don't get a full understanding. She specifically wished they'd go deeper into practicalities. This highlights a critical gap. Formal education often prioritizes abstract theory over tangible, practical skills needed for immediate independence.
And the knowledge is often fragmented across different subjects.
Yes, scattered across social studies, economics, home economics, hindering a cohesive understanding. Like getting pieces of a puzzle but never seeing the whole picture.
Plus the timing issue, getting the knowledge when it's not relevant yet.
Exactly. The right knowledge at the wrong time problem. Bella found topics like investing or retirement planning irrelevant without a stable income. She knows she'll think about it when she starts working, but right now she's just trying to survive on the money I have.
So the knowledge decays if taught too early.
Or you make mistakes if it's taught too late. Expensive phone contracts. Buy now, pay later traps. Camilla also raised a critical concern about distinguishing legitimate from fraudulent online investment platforms, highlighting a crucial digital financial literacy gap for risks in digital landscapes, scams, deceptive marketing, data privacy.
But despite these shortcomings, they still value the education itself.
Universally, yes.
Yeah.
They recognize its fundamental importance. Fiona found it very good and useful now and in the future. Anna agreed it affects us all. Carl and Peter emphasized that everyone needs it, and it provides a common starting point.
Serving as an equalizer.
Precisely. Johann underscored that not everyone has parents with a handle on finances, making school a vital equalizer for ensuring equitable access, regardless of background. This aligns perfectly with the concept of financial citizenship, viewing equitable access to financial education as a fundamental right.
So if school isn't always hitting the mark, where are they primarily learning their practical skills?
The findings strongly suggest students primarily attribute their financial understanding and habits to informal learning at home, especially from parents. This hands-on ongoing guidance bridges the gap between abstract lessons and real-world application.
Like Anna, whose mother worked in finance.
Exactly. Anna noted she absorbed a lot because her mom talks a lot about it at home, giving her more insight and enabling her to understand and discuss more. Her mother's practical discussions provided context that formal schooling lacked. Her ability to save stemmed directly from this active family guidance.
But not all home learning is active teaching, right? Some is just absorbing.
Right. Some, like Anna's, absorb knowledge more passively. Her father worked in finance and discussed it daily. "It is like my everyday life to hear about it," she said. Yet despite this constant exposure, Ellen admitted, "I can't do that myself." Not yet, referring to investing, and still relied on her mother.
So passive exposure doesn't equal capability.
It highlights a key insight. Passive exposure builds familiarity, but doesn't automatically translate into independent decision-making or behavioral change. There's a difference between hearing about it and knowing how to do it.
So there's this tension between formal and informal learning.
It's a key tension. Formal education provides foundational knowledge, setting a common baseline. Informal learning, especially from engaged parents, provides contextualized insights, practical habits, and ongoing guidance that cement understanding and drive behavior. External sources like guest lecturers often just reinforce existing knowledge. Fintech tools also contribute but introduce new digital risks.
This all suggests we need a more holistic approach then, like this financial citizenship idea.
Exactly. This approach recognizes youth as both rights holders entitled to comprehensive financial education and as active contributors capable of influencing financial landscapes. It means financial education must move beyond the simple how-to guide. It needs to proactively address socioeconomic differences. Acknowledging one-size-fits-all is insufficient. It must teach practical, real-world skills youth can immediately apply, integrate crucial digital financial literacy and risk assessment for an online world, and crucially, amplify youth voices in curriculum designed to ensure relevance and engagement.
So empowering them as active participants.
It's a profound shift from just teaching what to do with money to empowering young people to become active, informed, and resilient financial citizens who can confidently navigate the complex interplay of luck, skill, and systemic forces that will shape their financial lives.
So wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for us as individuals navigating our own financial journeys and maybe as a society trying to empower others?
Yeah, what are the big takeaways?
It's clear that financial success and failure are far more complex than those simplistic narratives of just hard work or poor choices. They're profoundly shaped by the twin forces of luck and risk.
Always present.
By our inherent psychological biases that favor simple stories, and by the very contexts, the economic, social, even geopolitical landscapes in which we live our lives.
Indeed. Understanding that nothing is as good or as bad as it seems, and recognizing the pervasive, often invisible influence of luck and systemic risk. Well, it fosters a profound humility in success and a deep, genuine empathy in failure.
Humility and empathy. Key themes.
Absolutely. It shifts our focus from an idealized, often misleading narrative of individual genius to appreciating broad, repeatable patterns and acknowledging the crucial, undeniable role of external factors beyond our control.
Right.
True financial capability isn't just about accumulating abstract knowledge or mastering complex algorithms. It's about cultivating practical discipline, about adapting with resilience to diverse economic realities, and about building frameworks that allow us to survive and even flourish against the unpredictable turns of life.
It's an ongoing journey.
It really is an ongoing journey of learning and adaptation, and a perpetual reminder that our financial lives are always an intricate, sometimes beautiful, sometimes brutal blend of what we control and what the world simply throws our way.